Hello and welcome to today's edition of the Academy. Today we're going to continue with Liddell Hart's 8 Maxims of Strategy in his book called Strategy. Now, this is the last of the what he calls positive maxims, do this kind of statements as opposed to don't do this type of thing. So, let's go ahead and, before we get started, I want to extend a thank you to everyone who subscribed and comments and likes these videos. It really does help the channel. Thank you very much. It's very encouraging. If you haven't already, please though do subscribe, like, comment away, especially as I come up with things and it makes you think of something. Comment below. All right. If you want to be notified when the next video comes out, just click that notification bell, and you'll get notified when I put out the next video. All right. So let's take a look at maxim number 6. Ensure that both plan and dispositions are flexible, adaptable to circumstances. That's the maxim. He says your plan should foresee and provide for a next step in case of success or failure, or partial success, which is the most common case in war. Your dispositions or formation should be such as to allow this exploitation or adaptation in the shortest amount of possible time. All right. I like this advice a lot. I don't know if you've kept with me throughout the entire Sun Tzu review and discussion, but Sun Tzu had a lot of emphasis placed on the idea of being flexible. The whole analogy of your plan should be like water. Okay. Now, this is he actually, I like the way he's pretty clearly explains what he means here. If you look, he's talking about. Let's first do the kind of one of the criteria for making this possible, and that is your formations or dispositions, the way you're deployed on the board. That should be such to allow you the exploitation or adaptation in the shortest possible time. That means your units have to be in a position where when you change plans, they can easily respond and get into whatever that position is going to be. That's not always going to be the case. You may simply have units that aren't fast enough, but again, as fast as possible. Okay, so your plans will also need to consider the speeds of your various units on the table as you would change them. So I really like the 3 things that you're supposed to be putting in those I'll call them contingency plans for. You should plan and your plan should foresee and provide next steps for each of these 3 situations: success, failure, and partial success. Now, failure, obviously, we all know, okay, what happens if it doesn't work? What do I do next? That makes sense. That's plan A, plan B, plan C. That's fantastic. Okay, but what about success? How often do we plan what we're going to do once we succeed, achieve our objective? Okay, think about a deployment zone kind of struggle, where you need to reach your opponent's a point on your opponent's table edge, along your table edge, and you've done that. Great. Okay, now the game doesn't end right there, but all right, so you're there. Now what? Okay, your plan needs to consider how do you get there, and then it needs to go to the next step. What do you do once you're there? When you've got a body of force, combat capabilities situated on the objective, whatever that objective happens to be, or having accomplished the destruction of that one unit that you had as a goal, what do you do next? What is it that your army can do next that will either ensure that you don't lose the game you are in a position to win, or you're able to go on to take another objective of some sort without losing again that first one? So we often don't think in those terms. Sometimes we'll get this really spectacular first turn, and it's like, wow, we accomplished what in our mind was what we really needed to do, and then it's like, now what? We have to think, and then there's the partial success. This is a situation when you've sort of gotten what you needed, but you didn't get it all, so what do you do next? So first turn, let's just use, first turn is always a good example, because a lot of times that sets the tone, and we always have these first turn objectives, even if it's just in our mind. What if you only get part of that? And let's say there's a dangerous unit you need to take out, plus a couple of positional things you need, and you don't quite you take care of that dangerous unit, but you don't get to the location you need. And worse, your opponent has a chance to come and take the position you're trying to take. So now, not only do you have to get to the position, you've got to fight him off, which you didn't have to do before. So, okay, now you've got a situation where you've taken care of the one threat, but now what? Okay, so your plan needs to look at those, those what ifs. Okay, so now notice in the first examples I used, you've actually achieved the game's goals and need to kind of hold out until the end of the game to make sure you don't lose. Like, what if it's there's two different factors that weigh into winning: position and number of units killed or lost, right? Okay. So you got to think in those terms. The second example was looking more in terms of not the end game objectives, but those first turn kind of situations. Because in all honesty, your plans really are going to be, if you aren't just, well, let's just move everything over to the end and we're done. No, you're going to lay in your mind a plan of how you're going to deal with the threats that you see in your enemy's forces, and whether it's positional, whether it's firepower based, right? And how are you going to deal with that? What are you going to do to take care of that while accomplishing the game's goals, right? So you will set up in your mind a plan. And you need to think in terms of, okay, this plan is actually going to occur from the minute the game starts until the last dice roll, which, let's say it's 6 turns or whatever. Maybe it's 8, who knows. Depends on the game system. You need to be able to start executing your plan, knowing, because you've already introduced these possibilities into your plan, that when X happens, you're going to do Y instead of what you originally planned. Because the opponent did this instead, you're going to do this. And that way you can follow up with whatever the developments are on the tabletop. It all goes back to that. Be flexible. Have a good plan with alternatives. And it goes back to analyzing the situation. What is the opponent likely to do? What is he expecting you to do? What combat capabilities does he have compared to what you have? What's your positional advantage or disadvantage? Factoring all those estimations in, calculating out the risk, and then deciding your course of action. Not just one turn at a time, but a string of events. Now, a string of events may take 2 turns, may take 3 turns, may take 5 turns, but you've got a plan for a string of events that, again, is adaptable. And that's what he's trying to get to. Always plan to make your plans flexible and adaptable to the situation. Okay? All right. So, relatively short concept. I think it's pretty clear. Let me know if it isn't. Okay? Comment below on that. And thank you again for watching. Please, if you haven't already, share and like this video. And again, I encourage you to subscribe if you haven't. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.